Money would sometimes instruct the boys to disrobe and inspect each other's genitals. Sometimes they were made to simulate sex acts on each other. Now, it's taken as self-evident that something called gender exists and that it's distinct from biological sex. And that the former, perhaps even the latter, they tell us now, and we'll have more on that later, is an artificial social construct. But these ideas were not always self-evident. In fact, they weren't evident at all to anyone for the entire history of the human race up until about 55 seconds ago. Thousands of generations lived and died, engaging in art and science and philosophy and everything else that comprises human civilization, all while assuming that there were only males and females and never finding any other reason for any other categories. In the 20th century, that all changed. Considering the suddenness and magnitude of this shift in our understanding of human nature, we should probably take the time to acquaint ourselves with the people responsible for it. And when it comes to the concept of gender and gender constructs, there's no better place to start than Dr. John Money. How many people know the name Dr. John Money? We've got a few. How many people have heard of the term gender? Everyone? Okay. See, this is the problem. A real disconnect here. So Dr. John Money is why you guys know of the term gender. A prominent psychologist and sexologist, Money was one of the early pioneers of the gender theories that are currently taught in grade schools and in universities like this one as gospel truth. He was among the first to take the word gender out of the realm of grammar and apply it to people. So he coined the terms gender role, gender identity, and sexual orientation. That was all him. He was a professor at York University, or rather a professor at York University, recently published a book labeling John Money the man who invented gender. So suffice it to say, he was an extremely influential man, and anyone who propagates left-wing gender theory today is parroting the ideas of John Money, whether they know it or not, and most, as we've seen, do not. Now, that fact ought to trouble gender theory proponents because John Money was, among other things, a fraud, a quack, and a pedophile. In 1965, after a little boy named Bruce Reimer suffered a botched circumcision, Money convinced his parents to have him castrated and raised as a girl. Now, gender is just a construct, he told them, so it should be no problem turning him into a girl. They followed Money's advice, and they also brought Bruce and his twin brother, Brian. He had a twin brother, so this makes it a good case study. Two twin brothers. Gender's just a social construct. It's all environmental. So you raise this boy, give him a sex change when he's a baby, raise him as a girl, should be no problem. He's a girl. Well, they also brought the two boys in for regular therapy sessions with Money, and Money would sometimes instruct the boys to disrobe and inspect each other's genitals. Sometimes they were made to simulate sex acts on each other. On at least one occasion, they disrobed and Money took pictures of them while naked. Never explained exactly why he did that, but maybe we can imagine. Money explained that this was all meant to be healthy sexual exploration for the boys, which he felt that he needed to witness and facilitate. Ultimately, Money was convinced that his project had been a smashing success. It was not. The female identity never took hold for Bruce because he wasn't a female. Eventually, he was told the truth. He decided to transition back to being a boy when he was about 13 or 14 years old. But his life and his brother's life had been destroyed. And when they were both, I think, in their 30s, the twin brother, had overdosed intentionally on antidepressants, and then Bruce went to, a couple of years later, to a grocery store parking lot with a sawed-off shotgun and shot himself in the head. Now, that is the story. That's the beginning of this story that you are all taught in school now. And he's the guy who invented it. And that's what helped to take sex from a biological fact to a political and ideological fact. Now, many people, especially conservatives, think that this all began 5 or 10 years ago. As I've already explained, that cuts the timeline short by several decades. What has really changed in the last 5 or 10 years is that the gender versus sex distinction engineered by John Money has been effectively erased because it's outlived its usefulness. So first, we were conditioned to believe that a man could be a member of the male sex and yet identify with the artificial social constructs of womanhood. Now it's said that a man who identifies as a woman actually is a woman. The real shift of recent years is that we're expected to see women and trans women as completely the same, identical, no difference. A trans activist on Twitter went so far as to declare that a trans woman's penis is a biologically female penis. Which, of course, is like saying that a square is geometrically circular. It's incoherent. Now, that in the end is the whole problem with left-wing gender theory. It is totally, absolutely incoherent.